It is a gray morning in March, and you are standing in the doorway of a small chicken house with a coffee cup going cold in your hand. The straw is damp, the air smells of dust and feathers and old grain, and there against the wall is the thing you came to look at, a paper sack of feed, 50 pounds of it, with a picture of a smiling hen printed on the front, and a price stamped on the corner that made you wince at the counter last week. You bought that sack. You will buy another in 9 days, and one after that, for as long as you keep birds, because that is simply what a person does. And in the corner of that same chicken house sits a plain 5-gallon bucket with a lid crooked on top of it, and inside is nothing but grain and water, quietly bubbling to itself like a jar of something your grandmother would have kept in a cellar. And the man who owns this place, an old fellow with feed dust on his forearms, lifts that crooked lid and lets you smell it. It does not smell of rot. It smells sharp and sour and clean, like the top of a crock of sauerkraut, like buttermilk, like bread dough that has sat since morning. And he tells you the birds out that door, the fat ones scratching in the leaves along the fence line, cost him about $1.25 a week to feed, all of them, together. And you look at the sack with the smiling hen on it, and you do the arithmetic in your head, and you do not like the answer. Now I want you to sit with that a moment, because you have been taught, without anybody ever sitting you down to teach it, that a chicken is a grain machine, that you pour dry grain in one end, and eggs come out the other, and the only question worth asking is which sack to buy. But a chicken is not a cow. She has no rumen, no 4 stomachs, no long grinding gut built to live on dry seed. A chicken is a forest bird. She came out of the jungles on the other side of the world, and every single thing about her body was built for scratching in leaf litter and running down beetles and tearing at green shoots. Her feet are rakes. Her eye is built to catch a bug moving in shade. That bag of dry crumbles in the corner is barely older than your grandmother. The bird is thousands of years older than the bag. We did not invent feeding chickens. We only invented selling it to you. My name is Amos. I am Amish, and I farm a valley here in Ohio, the same ground my father worked and his father before him. And I did not learn what I am about to hand you from a book or a school or a man in a white coat. I learned it from my grandmother, who kept 40 birds through the Depression and never once bought a sack of anything for them, and from my grandfather, who thought the notion of buying food for an animal that eats bugs was about the funniest thing he had ever heard. This is not knowledge I own. It is knowledge that passed through me on its way to you. So there are 3 old ways we feed birds in this valley, and I will give you every one, and then do a thing the fellows who make these promises almost never do. I will show you my arithmetic. The first is the food already sitting in your house and already headed for the bin. The second is what happens when plain grain and plain water are left alone together for 2 days and turn into something else entirely, and this one does the heaviest lifting. The third is the bird let out to feed herself on things you did not pay for and could not buy if you wanted to. 3 ways. And then the number, every penny of it shown to you honest, because I would rather you check my work than take my word. So let me start you with the one that costs nothing at all, because it is already sitting on your counter waiting to be thrown away. The kitchen way. Think what actually goes into your bin in a week. The heels of the bread nobody wanted, the peelings off the potatoes and carrots, the rice left in the pot, the oatmeal gone claggy in the pan, the wilted half of the lettuce, the plate scrapings from 3 suppers. Every day you carry a small pile of perfectly good food out to the bin and pay a man to drive it away, and 40 feet from your back door there is an animal who would consider that pile a feast. And that is not the whole of it. The other half grows in your yard for free. Clover, which a hen will take from your hand like candy. Dandelion, leaf and all, the whole nuisance of it. Chickweed, plantain, the flat rosette in the footpath. Grass clippings, so long as nothing was sprayed on them, and I mean nothing. In summer, the cucumber that got away and went yellow and fat under the leaves. The squash the size of a fence post. The tomato that split. You have been calling those failures. They are dinner, and dinner is walking around on 2 legs waiting for it. And you already know this in your own body. Think of the day after a big supper, when the icebox is full of odd bowls with plates on top of them, and you make a hash of the whole lot in one pan, and it is better than anything you served the night before. You did not lose anything. You moved it. That is all the kitchen way is. It is running the food through one more animal on its way back to the soil, and getting eggs as it goes past. My grandmother would have said a farm with a bin on it is a farm with a hole in the bottom. Now the second way is the way of the bucket, and this is the one to lean toward me for, because here is where the money actually goes. Fermented feed. That word sounds like something out of a magazine, so throw the word away and keep the thing. You take plain grain, the same grain you already buy, whole or scratch or crumble, it does not much matter. You put it in a bucket, you cover it with water, you wait a couple of days. That is the entire method. Everything else is the how of it, and the how is where every one of these fellows leaves you standing in the yard with a bucket and no instructions. So here is the how, plain. Take a clean bucket. 5 gallon is right for a small flock. A gallon pail is plenty for 4 or 5 birds. Put in your grain and pour water until it stands 2 or 3 inches above it. That is the part folks get wrong, and the only proportion you must remember. Not level with the grain, above it, because that grain will drink and swell and climb, and if you only just wet it, by morning the top will be sitting dry in the air, and dry grain over wet grain is exactly where mold comes from. Rule of thumb, about 2 parts water to 1 part grain by the eye, then check the next day and add more if it has drunk it all. Now the lid, and this matters more than anybody tells you. Put the lid on, but do not seal it. Set it on crooked. Lay a plate on top. Tie a cloth over it. Anything that keeps the flies and mice out and lets the gas walk out, because that bucket will make gas, real gas, all on its own, and a sealed bucket has nowhere to put it. I have seen a man clamp a lid down tight and come out in the morning to a lid on the far side of the shed and grain up the wall. Gas out, flies out. That is the whole rule. Then you stir it, once a day, with a stick or a spoon, right down to the bottom, pushing the floaters back under. 10 seconds. And in 2 days, if the weather is warm, 3 if it is cool, it is ready. In high summer, it may go in a day and a half. In a cold shed in November, it may want 4. Do not go by the calendar, go by your nose. And here is your nose, and this part keeps your birds safe, so hear it clear. Good smells sour. Sour like yogurt, sour like buttermilk, sour like the top of a crock of kraut, sharp, tangy. It makes you pull your head back an inch and then lean in again, because underneath the sour it smells clean, and it smells like food. There will be little bubbles rising through it and a whitish cloudy look to the water. That is what you want. Bad does not smell like that, and you will not need me to tell you which you have got. Bad smells rotten, like a garbage can in July, foul and sweetish and wrong, and it turns your stomach instead of waking it. Or you lift the lid and see fuzz. Green fuzz, black fuzz, any fuzz at all, growing on top like the fur on an old orange. That is mold, and mold is not a thing you stir back in and hope about. If it smells rotten, or if it grows fuzz, dump it somewhere your birds cannot get at it, wash that bucket, and begin again. You lose a few cents of grain doing it. A hen is worth more than a handful of grain. And once you have a good batch going, you never start from nothing again. When you scoop out the day's feed, leave an inch or 2 of that sour, cloudy liquid in the bottom. Then add fresh grain and fresh water right on top of it. That old liquid is full of the same little workers that did the job last time, and they get straight back to it, so the next batch comes faster. My grandmother did the same with her bread and never called it anything but the start. 1 bucket rolling on all winter, and you only begin from scratch if you let it go wrong or let it go dry. Now here is why it works, because this is the piece everybody skips. When that grain sits in water, the little bacteria that live on everything, the same quiet ones that turn cabbage into kraut and milk into yogurt, wake up and begin to eat. And what they eat is the grain. They take it apart. They break the hard parts into soft parts. They chew it, in a manner of speaking, before your bird ever gets to it. So the grain in your hen's crop is not a hard, dry seed she has got to grind and wrestle and pass along half-used. It is already opened. Half the work is done before she swallows. And you already know this in your own body, because you have eaten both kinds of bread. Think of a plain white loaf, soft and quick and gone in an hour, and a real sourdough that sat on the counter through the night before it ever saw the oven. Same flour, same water. But something got to work on the sourdough first, and it opened it up, and it sits different in you, and it holds you longer. That is the very thing happening in your bucket. Sourdough for chickens, kraut for chickens. Now I will not give you a percentage, because I have not got one, and the fellow who tells you it makes exactly 15% more eggs has not got one either. He just knows a number sounds better than a reason, so take the reason instead. The grain is pre-opened. More of what is in it reaches the bird instead of passing through her onto the ground. That is the whole of the claim, and it is true, and I can hand it to you without lying to you. And there is the other half of it, the plain physical half you can see with your own eyes. Dry grain drinks. It swells. A scoop of dry grain becomes near 2 scoops of wet grain by the second day. The bird's crop only holds what it holds. So she fills up on grain that is half water, and wholly opened, she walks away satisfied, and the level in your sack goes down slower. That is a sponge, not a miracle. Folks tell me their birds eat 1/4 to 1/3 less by the sack after a month on the bucket, and that matches my own eye, though it depends on your birds and what else they are getting. And the third way is the way of the open gate, and it costs the very least and frightens folks the most. Let her out. Open the door in the morning after she has laid, let her go, and shut her in at dusk. What she does out there all day is not loafing. She is working. She is turning over every leaf along that fence line, and eating the beetle underneath. She is taking grasshoppers out of the air. She is eating ticks, and I mean the ticks that would have gone on your dog and your child. She is eating slugs and grubs and the very cutworms that were going to eat your beans. And every mouthful is protein you did not buy and could not have bought, because nobody sells a bag of bugs. A hen is a small feathered dinosaur, and I mean that kindly. Watch one run down a cricket and tell me I am wrong. The grain sack is what we hand her, because we took the forest away. And you already know this in your own body too. Think of a man who eats nothing but white bread. 3 times a day, white bread and nothing else. That man will not starve. He will get up and go to work. But you would not call him well, and you would not be surprised when his gums bleed and he catches every cold that walks through the door. He is fed and he is not nourished. That is a hen on nothing but dry grain, every day, from the day she hatches. Open the gate and she nourishes herself, for free and better than you ever could with a scoop, and if you cannot let them loose, on account of hawks or dogs or a road, move the gate instead of opening it. A pen with no bottom that you drag 10 feet every morning gives her fresh ground daily. Or cut the greens and carry them in. More work for you and less for her, but the bird gets the same in the end. Now let us do the arithmetic out loud, because a man who gives you a number and will not show you where it came from is asking you to trust him instead of to think, and I will not do that to you. And the honest part comes first. That number depends entirely on how many birds you keep and how much ground you have got. 6 hens on half an acre of grass in June is a different animal from 20 hens in a run in January. So I will not hand you one number and pretend it fits your yard. I will hand you the pennies, and you can add up your own. Take a small flock, say 6 hens. On dry feed alone, those birds go through something on the order of 1/4 pound each a day. That is 1.5 pounds a day, better than 10 pounds a week, a fair slice of a 50-pound sack every month, and you know what you paid for that sack because you carried it to the truck. That is your starting line. Now run the 3 ways at it. The scraps are better than free, because that food was already bought and already headed for the bin. Call that 1/3 of her belly in a decent week, more in summer when the garden is running over. The open gate is free the same way, only more so, and nobody bills you for a grasshopper. From April to October, a bird with real ground under her takes a large share of her own living off it, and I have seen good grass in June do most of the job by itself, and the bucket does the rest. It makes no grain out of nothing. It stretches what you buy because the water swells it and the souring opens it, and less goes out the back end unused. Add those three up in a green week with a small flock and a decent yard, and the grain you actually buy comes down to a scoop or two a day. That is where $1.25 a week lives. Not $1.25 for 20 birds in a bare run in February. That would be a lie, and I would be telling it on purpose. In the deep of winter, with the ground froze and the bugs gone, you will feed more grain, and you should, and any man who says otherwise has never wintered a bird. So say $1 or $2 a week in the green months for a handful of hens, a good deal more in the cold, and an average across the year that will still make you laugh at what you used to hand over at that counter. I would rather give you the range and the reason than a tidy number I made up to impress you. Now I need to stop and speak to you plain for a moment, because these are living animals, and animals done wrong will die on you, and I would rather you trust me than be impressed by me. Water first. Clean water, always, every day, and more of it than you think, and more again in the cold when it wants to freeze on you. Every one of these 3 ways runs on a bird that is watered. No method here gets you out of that. Second, change her feed slow. Do not go out tomorrow and throw the sack away. A bird's gut has its own quiet population, and it must be brought along gently. Mix a little of the new in with the old, a quarter the first few days, half the next week, more the week after. 2 weeks to make the turn, 3 is better. Do it all at once, and you will have loose birds and a drop in the eggs, and you will blame the method when the fault was the hurry. Third, and hear this close, not every scrap is food, nothing moldy, not ever, not one crust, not the fuzzy heel of the loaf, not the forgotten bowl at the back of the icebox. Mold is the one thing here that can kill a bird outright, and a chicken is a small creature. Nothing salty. No chips, no cured meat, no drippings off a ham, no gravy. A hen cannot handle salt the way you do, and it works on her hard. Nothing rotten, nothing slimy, nothing that turned. Here is my grandmother's rule, and it has never failed anybody. If you would not put it on your own plate, do not put it in their bowl. She is not a garbage can. She is a bird, and the food goes into the eggs you feed your family. And fourth, the bucket. If it smells wrong, it is wrong. Dump it, wash it, start over. Do not stir it and hope. Do not scrape the fuzz off the top and tell yourself the rest is fine. Sour is good and rotten is bad, and your nose has known the difference since you were 4 years old. Trust it. Now here comes the turn, and I want you to lean in for it, because it is not the turn you are expecting. I am not going to tell you there is a villain here. The feed store is not cheating you. That fellow behind the counter is straight with you, and the grain in the sack is honest grain, exactly what it says on the front. There is no conspiracy. What there is simpler than a conspiracy, and in its way a good deal sadder. There is no money in a bucket of water. That is all it is. Nobody can sell you a sack of your own potato peelings. Nobody can bag up the beetles under the leaves along your fence and put a smiling hen on the front and stack it on a pallet. Nobody can invoice you for 2 days of waiting, so nobody advertises it. And a thing nobody has any reason to say out loud is a thing that slowly stops getting said. It does not get banned, it does not get hidden, it just goes quiet, 1 generation at a time, until your grandmother knew it, and your mother half knew it, and you never heard it at all. Not stolen, just unsold. And there is nobody to arrest for that, which means there is nobody to wait on either. There is a bucket, and there is water, and there is a gate, and the whole of it is sitting in your yard right now. So let me set the whole of it in your hands. The kitchen, first, because it is already bought and already walking out to the bin without you. Peelings, heels, plate scrapings, clover, dandelion, the squash that got away. Nothing moldy, nothing salty, nothing rotten. Then the bucket. Grain, water 2 or 3 inches over the top, lid on loose so the gas can walk out. Stir once a day, 2 days warm and 3 days cool. Sour like yogurt is good and rotten or fuzzy is finished. and leave an inch of liquid behind to start the next. Sourdough for a chicken, and then the gate, because she is a forest bird with rakes for feet and an eye for a beetle, and the best feed on your place is the feed you never paid for. Clean water, always. Change her over slow. Now I want to hear from you, and I mean that true. Tell me down below where you live, what corner of this world you are sitting in, and tell me what your own people fed their birds before the sack came along. Did your grandmother carry a pail out from the kitchen every evening? Did she soak the grain? Did she just open the door at daylight and let them sort it out? Somebody in your family kept hens once and never bought a bag in their life, and I want their way, and if you set that bucket up, come back and tell me what day it turned and what it smelled like, because that will help the next person more than anything I said. I read every single comment that comes to me on these. Every one. Because this knowledge does not live in books. It lives in kitchens, and in cellars, and in the memory of folks like you, and every time one of you writes down what your people did, a little of it gets saved. And before you go, let me tell you what I am setting out next time, because it belongs alongside this one. Next, I will show you how we keep a chicken house warm through an Ohio winter with no electricity in it at all. Not a wire, not a plug, not a bill. And I am going to tell you about the thing that near everybody drags out to the coop in November and plugs into an extension cord, because they are worried and they love their birds. The very thing the man at the store hands you without you even asking. And I will show you why that thing may be the most dangerous object you can put in a chicken house, and how it can be the reason your birds do not see spring, and it has nothing to do with what you think it does. Most folks will not want to believe it. Come back for it anyway. Until then, keep it simple, keep it honest, and keep it